What we're going to go over in this video is how to write the equation of a line, specifically when it's written in slope-intercept form. Now there's standard form and there's slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form, you only need two things to write this equation. You need the slope and you need the y-intercept. Slope-intercept form always starts off with y is equal to. It can't start off with anything else. Always y is equal to. Y is equal to 2x plus 1, y is equal to 5x minus 9, y is equal to 1/2 x plus 3. It always has to start off with y is equal to. Right after the equal sign, you're going to write down whatever the slope is. If you can look at the graph and figure out the slope, then that's where you put the slope. If you're using a formula to figure out the slope, that's where you put the slope. And then right beside the slope, you have to put the letter x. So far it has to be y is equal to whatever the slope is, then you put an x right beside the slope. And on the end, you have to put the y-intercept. If it's a -3, you put -3. If it's a 4, you put +4. It's always going to look like y is equal to the slope with an x beside it, and then the y-intercept on the end. The y-intercept is simply where that line crosses the y-axis. So, every single equation that's written in slope-intercept form, y is equal to, you put whatever the slope is right here, and you write x beside it, and then there on the end you put the y-intercept down there on the end. A lot of times in textbooks this equation will be written as y is equal to mx plus b, where the m is the slope and that b is the y-intercept. You simply put those numbers, whatever it is, in those spots right there. So what we're going to do next is we're going to look at some examples where the only thing you have to do is figure out from the equation what the slope and what the y-intercept is. So let's look at this one. They want me to figure out what the slope is. To figure out what the slope is, as long as it's written in y is equal to, then the slope is always going to be this number right here. The slope is -3. The y-intercept is always going to be in this spot right here on the end, as long as it's in the right form. So the y-intercept, and this is the abbreviation for y-intercept, is simply 4. Just that easy. Sometimes this one gives people a problem. We need to figure out what the slope is. Well, the slope is always going to be that number in front of the x as long as it's in the right order. And this one's in the right order. Y is equal to x and then a number down here on the end. This number that's in front of that x that you can't see is a 1. The slope on this one is 1. The y-intercept is that number on the end. The y-intercept is -2. Let's look at this one. Y is equal to 5x. Remember, the slope is always the number in front of x, as long as it's in the right order. And it's in the right order. Y is equal to. This number right in front of x is 5. Now I need to figure out what the y-intercept is. The y-intercept is this number that's sitting right out here. Since I can't see anything, there's nothing out there, my y-intercept is going to be 0. If a line has a slope of 0, meaning if there's a 0 that needs to go in this spot right here, then the equation only has the y variable and a number and looks something like this. Y is equal to 10. That's an equation that has a slope of 0. There's nothing to put in front of the x. Or when you put a 0 in front of the x, 0 times x is 0. There's no x there. If the line has no slope, then the equation has only one variable, x, and looks like this right here. So y is equal to, this always has a slope of 0. This one doesn't even have a y. This one's got no slope. You can use this little formula to write the equation of a line, especially if it's given to you on a graph like this right here. So I'm given this graph, I'm given 2 points on this graph. I need to write the equation for this line. So it's going to start off with y is equal to, I need to figure out what the slope is. Simply have to count and make a fraction. I'm going to go ahead and make a fraction. Start at this point right here. I'm going to go up 1. 1 goes in the top. I'm going to count over 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 goes in the bottom, and I put an x beside the slope. Then I figure out what the y-intercept is. That's where this line runs into the y-axis. 1, 2, positive 2. There's the equation of that line right there. Just that easy.